For a moment, Gunnar was too shocked, too disappointed to speak. "But I swore on the blood of my ancestors," he managed to splutter at last. "I need Father to come home with me so we can kill Scully and Grim and save Mother."
"You swore the oath, Gunnar," said Odin, "so only you can fulfill it. To avenge your father's death, you will have to kill Scully in single combat."
"Why didn't you tell me that at the God House?" said Gunnar, his heart filling with anger and resentment again. "You could have saved me a lot of trouble."
"Ah, but you needed the trouble," said Odin. "It was the only way."
"Now you're talking in riddles," said Gunnar. "I don't understand."
"The instant you swore the blood oath, you stepped into the world of men," Father explained. "Odin set you on a path that would help you grow up quickly."
"Is that why it had to be so hard? Is that why I had to be a slave?"
"I didn't choose that for you, Gunnar," said Odin, shrugging. "It was what happened to you on your journey. That's all. Still, it seems to have worked." "Odin is right. You're not a boy anymore," said Father. "And I'm not just talking about you being taller. I've seen what you've done, what you've suffered. Odin showed me everything. You might be only 16 summers old, Gunnar, but you're braver than most men twice your age. Rorik and Thorkel must think so, or they would never have agreed to serve you."
"Even so," Gunnar said uncertainly, "how can I fight Scully?"
"I can teach you to be a warrior," Father said. "I always took you hunting with me from the time you learned to walk, so I know you can use a spear. And I showed you something of how to use a sword and shield, if only in games." "There are others here who can help you too," said Odin. "Great warriors who sit in Valhalla with little to do, waiting for Ragnarok, and wishing they were still alive in the mortal world. When you've learned what you need, you can go back with Rorik and Thorkel and Wiglaf and his crew, and they can deal with everyone other than Scully. You would never have met them either if it hadn't been for your journey."
"But all that will take too long, won't it?" said Gunnar.
"Don't worry," said Father. "Your mother is safe for the time being. Scully pressed her hard to begin with, but she held him off. He said he would give her a year and a day, then marry her whether she liked it or not."
Gunnar looked at him and Odin. Could they really turn him into a warrior in such a short time? They clearly believed it was possible, but Gunnar's heart was still full of doubt. If only he could be sure. If only he could know the future. Then he remembered. He was at the top of Yggdrasil, and sitting at the foot of the tree were 3 beings who had already decided what was to happen. "All right," he said, "but first I want to ask the Norns about my fate."
"You might not like the answer they give you," said Odin, frowning.
He and Father exchanged a look, and Father shrugged as if to say it was fine with him. "I'll deal with that if I have to," said Gunnar.
"Very well," said Odin. "Close your eyes, Gunnar."
Gunnar did as he was told, and when he opened them he was standing before a vast, endless tangle of knotted fibres that pulsed, and he knew he was looking at the web woven by the Norns. A light flared nearby, and Gunnar saw 3 hunched figures in ragged black cloaks, their skin pale and wrinkled, their mouths toothless and drooling, their hair like nests of snakes. One sat at a huge spindle, new threads spooling off it into the hands of the second, who swiftly wove them into the web, and the third wielded a giant pair of shears.
Spin and weave, said the first, into a line of silver thread, said the second. Then with a little snip, you're dead, 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 said the third, cutting through several threads at once. The 3 of them cackled, and Gunnar heard ghostly voices, the spirits of the newly dead wailing softly in the darkness. He wondered who they had been and how they had died. Then all 3 Norns turned to stare at him, their hands still spinning and weaving and cutting ceaselessly. Well, 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 said the first. Who have we here? It's the boy, said the second, the chosen one. Watching him suffer was so much fun, said the third. I'm glad you enjoyed it, he said, returning their gaze. I came here to ask a question, but now I have more than one. Why did you choose to make me suffer? And what will my fate be, and that of Scully? If not you, who else? said the first, shrugging. Too happy, far too blessed, said the third. Definitely in need of a test, said the second, and the cackling began again. Gunnar sighed. Was that it? He had been too happy, too blessed in his life and parents, so they had decided to take it all away from him. Perhaps it was best never to be happy then. You couldn't miss what you didn't have. But even as the thought came to him, he realised that was no way to live his life. You didn't answer my other questions, he said. Should we tell him of his fate? Said the first. Of course we should, said the second. And we won't lie. One will live, said the third, and one of you will die. Their cackling reached a peak this time, the three of them screaming with laughter. A shimmering pool appeared and cast an eerie, sickly glow. The Norns danced around it, their ragged cloaks and hair flying out around them. One of you will live, and one of you will die. It was hardly a revelation, and there was no comfort in it either. It seemed the only way to find out what lay in the future was to wait until it happened. Odin had been right. He didn't much like the answer. Thanks for nothing, he said. How do I get back to Odin? The Norns stopped dancing and looked up. Gunnar turned to look in the same direction and gasped with amazement. The light from the pool showed him the dim outline of an incredible colossal tree rising into the distant heavens, and he knew it was Yggdrasil, the tree that bore the 9 worlds of all creation. The boy doesn't like us, said the first Norn. What a surprise! He wants to get going, said the second, and we must get on. If he closes his eyes again, said the third, then he'll be gone. The instant Gunnar closed his eyes, he felt himself flying upwards. He opened his eyes briefly and saw the wonders in Yggdrasil's mighty branches, mountains and seas, forests and cities towering over plains, and the sun and the moon and stars whirling around the great tree like the Norns dancing. But all he could think of was the coming battle with Scully.